Welcome to the Trading Psychology and Mindset podcast. My name is Ash Playstead and I am your host. This show is all about building and training the mind we need for trading success. In this episode 2, I'm going to talk about one of the fundamentals, and that is good risk management. Big wins and small losses. Simple as it is to say, it's something that gets missed or forgotten by too many traders. So in this episode, I'll dive much deeper into that. Come on over and I'll see you in the show. Mastering your emotions with money on the line. Probably call this discussion making the big mindset shift from certainty to probability. Now, there comes a moment in the evolution of a trader that they really have to look back and say, what is going on here? They have the knowledge base, they have the intelligence, they have the winning desire, they have the motivation. Yet what they do is they keep looking at their trading account and they see where it's at and they see the potential they have in trading and they realize something's blocking them. And by the process of elimination, they've discovered that it's them. It's their own mindset that they're bringing to trading that blocks their ability to take it to the next step. And this is where we go, okay, ultimately, trading is about mastering emotions and mastering the trading mind. And that's what we want to look at here. Now, what does that require? The very first thing is that we have to take a look at this whole notion of biology and mind. What most traders don't get is that mind and emotion cannot be separated, and that top-down thinking is not king. Now, we often think, well, I should be logical, I should be rational, I should be able to push emotions out of the way. Well, the answer is no, you can't, because there's no time you're not in emotion. As a matter of fact, what you may want to call reason is not reason at all. It's rationalization. Man is not a rational animal. He is a rationalizing animal. And you start to begin to realize that what we have been taught to believe is wrong. We have been led to think of the mind as supreme and to think of emotion as something that happens. Now, that's false. It's the exact opposite. In fact, it is emotion that is the horse that drives the cart. The cart is the mind. And we begin to realize, wow, we've put it backwards. And it's like Einstein said, the mind is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. And that's what traders must recognize. Now, they may have what they think is a good mind, and it may well be a good mind in other areas of their life. But in trading, it's not. It doesn't work in the environment of trading. And all of a sudden we realize, wow, what is it about the emotional brain and the thinking brain that are so at odds with one another? Well, they have two very different purposes. The emotional brain is all about survival. It wants to control environment, control outcome. It wants to make things happen, and it wants to be right based on that formula that worked so well for evolution millions of years. It worked for the success of the species, and it's wired deeply in all of us, and it's still with us. We tend to call it caveman brain, right? The thinking brain is the part of the brain that allows you to be able to think in probability, okay? And so it's vital for trading. We have to be able to think in probabilities, not feel that we think in probabilities. Now, what happens with traders is that they believe, okay, I know how to do this. I can think in probabilities. I know it's about probabilities. I can't win every trade. Blah, 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 blah. They're talking the talk. But when they're risking real capital, it is like a bomb went off. And they discover that's not what they really perform as under stress. And that is a real aha moment. What they do, suddenly capital gets put at risk and everything blows up. That's because the emotional brain relates that vulnerability, and putting capital on the line is that very vulnerability. It relates it as a threat of death, and it triggers to fight, flight, freeze. Now, despite what you may want to think, the old brain, the caveman brain, that emotion brain is going, no, this is a fight for our lives. We have to be on it. And all of a sudden you get over trading, you get revenge trading, and you watch people not being able to pull the trigger. You see people getting out of a trade going, I just don't know what I was thinking. And I don't know what I was thinking. They come back to their senses, and that's when they say, yeah, I got possessed. I don't know what got hold of me. Now, well, in some ways, you have been possessed. What you did is you got hijacked by your survival instincts of the emotional brain. That emotional brain sees uncertainty as a biological threat to its existence. The moment you have risk, have uncertainty, and capital risk, you trigger that fight flight response. And that's what's happening to you. That's the brain you brought to the table. And that's what I consistently say over and over, that the mind you brought to trading is not going to be the mind that's going to produce success in trading. It's going to have to be different, going to have to intentionally retool the way the brain and the mind work together, build a collaborative working partnership. Firstly, you have to recognize that emotions are not optional, okay? You don't have freedom from emotion. You have freedom of emotion if you work at it, and that all thinking is emotional state dependent. I'll repeat that. All thinking is emotional state dependent. So wherever your emotions are when triggered by uncertainty, there's your thinking. And very few traders bridge that gap. They want to control outcome. They want to win, but they just can't seem to get the idea that, no, I have to bridge the gap between survival thinking or certainty thinking and probability thinking. So the question arises, how do you do that? Well, let's start with the first and foremost thing, and that is to recognize that an emotion is biological. It is not psychological. It takes over your psychology. It's all about avoiding risk. It's all about survival. It's all about controlling the outcome, making things happen and being right. And when you get into trading, what happens is that you have no control over outcome at all. It's random. You never know what's going to happen. And you're already, at this point, producing the emotional brain to get into fight, flight right there. And this happens outside your current awareness. Your emotional caveman brain is already taking the wheel. Then you put capital at risk, and suddenly the vulnerability of uncertainty triggers to fight, flight, and there you are. This is a major glitch, okay? If you want to be a successful trader, now, how do you solve that problem? How do you fix that problem? Well, the very first step is to regulate the emotions and learning how to regulate the emotion. And remember what I said earlier is that emotions are biological. That is a very important key insight into what emotions actually are. So by being biological, that means they have a biological signature. And that signature is part breathing, it's part muscle tension, it's part heart rate. And when you start looking at that, you're going, well, okay, my breath controls a lot about the way my biology is going to produce the emotion. It controls literally whether or not you remain calm or whether or not it triggers into fight flight. So here we are, that by controlling your breathing, you can actually alter the emotion. And the same thing with muscle tension. When you feel tension in the body, the jaw clenching, your shoulders tightening, all that stuff that happens when risking capital, what you're doing is feeling emotional arousal heading towards fight flight. And right now, you don't have the skills to be able to pull it back off the edge of a cliff. That's what you have to learn. Now, by those three physical symptoms, by looking at heart rate and knowing I have to keep it lowered within a range, I know that I have to let the tension in my body calm down. And I know that I have to start breathing in a different way to be able to dampen the emotion and to keep it under regulation. That's a really powerful thing because you have to get the ability to intervene and to not allow the emotion to trigger into fight flight, where all the crazy stuff happens, okay? That's where all that possession stuff and getting hijacked takes place. But even there, you've got to understand this, right? Emotional regulation only gets you to the door of the mind. Vital as it is, it gets you to the door of the mind. It's inside the mind where we really want to go. And when we're in there, we must develop a skill called mindfulness to be able to look at our beliefs, at our thoughts, not as who we are, but as who has captured the organization of self. Key concept right there. Now, I talk about that a lot more elsewhere and in other episodes, but the key is what you're really looking at is going, okay, in mindfulness, you learn that my thoughts and my beliefs are not the same thing. There's a difference between the awareness of the thought and the thought itself. And you begin to realize, okay, my thoughts and beliefs just represent one construction of a self that adapted to survive in an environment, in the world. And what you're discovering is that world, no matter how successful you were back then and there, is not working in the new world of trading. And you have to say, I need to alter my beliefs that I'm projecting onto the screen of the markets. And you start going, okay, what I know is that I'm prone to fight flight. Every human being is. That's the caveman living within us. And that I need to be able to regulate that. But at the same time, my experiencing with managing uncertainty, what did I learn about it? And most people discover that ultimately, they really don't have a good fix on being able to engage and manage uncertainty successfully with a calm, cool, disciplined manner. Now, that is what has to be reworked. And you get down to the belief of where you literally start reworking the belief you have about your own ability to manage uncertainty. That's where the magic happens in trading. And suddenly what happens is the uncertainty doesn't change, okay? The challenges of trading don't change. The potential of losses and gains doesn't change. What does change is the mind, based on your beliefs that you bring into the moment of engaging uncertainty. By doing that, you change the conversation, the biology, and the mind have about your ability to perform in the midst of uncertainty. When that happens, you're no longer trying to win or lose. You're focusing on performing. This is vital, vital, vital knowledge leap for you to make. When you're focused on performing, okay, you can control that. And that's what allows you to take the next step in your trading evolution. When you're focused on winning or losing, you can't control that. That's what most people do. When you learn the skills, the ability to focus on performance, the thing that you can control, that's when you take the next step. And you get a performance mind rather than a winning mind. And you let go of winning and you say, okay, what I can do is I can perform. I have no idea what's going to happen. Controlling outcome, winning or losing, is an illusion. However, what I can control is the mind I'm bringing into that moment of performance. And when you have a working methodology that gives you an edge, your trading system, right? And there's hundreds of those that you can work on to develop an edge. The performance mind is the mental edge, the mental fitness, the emotional edge that you need to be able to drive your method edge. I'll just repeat that. The mental fitness, the mental edge, that performance mind, that's what is needed to drive the method edge. You've got to have both. That's how you do it. It's not easy. You're not going to be able to get there using affirmations. I'm sorry to call all this out. If you've been trying emotions and positive affirmations and positive thinking, that's not going to do it. Okay, you're not going to use visualizations. You're not going to use law of attraction. You're not going to use NLP to change that deep-seated ancient belief system. You're going to have to use emotional intelligence, which, by the way, is a key aspect of what I teach. I teach how to go in and correct the beliefs you have literally at a synapse level that allow you to change your response to uncertainty. That's the trick right there. That's where the real work is needed. That's the piece you're missing that allows you to move your mind from kind of blowing up, messing up, to where it's comfortable with uncertainty. Okay, that is key. Now, to learn more about this, go to my website, learn more about it. Subscribe to my newsletter and read more articles. Go to my YouTube channel and watch more videos and start looking at my course offerings, because in those, I actually teach the how of going about changing the belief system that engages uncertainty, taking that next step on your trading evolution. I hope you enjoyed this episode, friends. I thank you for your time, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Trading Psychology and Mindset Podcast.